Hello everyone and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel and today I'm joined by my co-host who I just cannot wait to play with, Abram Buhner, and today we're here to talk about our most anticipated upcoming games from the year of our Lord 2025, which looks like it's shaping up. And we don't even have all the games announced yet. Looks like it's shaping up to be one of the defining years of the video games industry, unless everything sucks, which is possible. It's technically possible. But we're going to go through about 10 games from each of us, as well as some of the most anticipated games from our community members. If you want to be a part of that community and tell us your favorite games, I guess, or what you're looking forward to, you can join our Discord with chats. I'll link in the description, of course. We don't usually do plugs at the top anymore, but, subscribe to the channel, like the video. We're usually not those kind of guys, but I feel like it made sense to, tie it in here at the beginning because I'm talking about that community.
Why not? We're ballyhooing.
Backlog ballyhoo. Abram?
So, Tucker,
want to talk about some games?
let me do a little bit more preamble here.
Okay,
we had this conversation at the very tail end of 2020. Very much so. I think we're as important as the Constitution.
I would agree. More modern relevance, at least. Take that how you will.
Let's put it this way. There are certain people to whom BLB impacts their lives more than the Constitution because we have foreign viewers.
That's a great point. Excellent.
The Constitution has no bearing on their lives at all.
No.
We had this conversation at the end of December about games we're anticipating.
Yeah.
And I got some backlash to my list.
Yeah.
So what I did is instead of what I did before, which was think off the top of my head and consult one article from GameSpot about what's coming out in 2025, I really sat down and I looked at the games I'm excited for.
Yeah.
And I figured out which ones actually are dated for 2025. Yes. And then which ones aren't. So I've got a couple I want to shout out very briefly that aren't actually dated, but probably going to release in 2025.
Yeah, I think I have one of those for myself.
I have 10 that are dated in 2025, which is to say they have a 2025 date on them.
Yeah.
I'm not caring about whether it's likely that they're going to hit that year. I'm not caring if there's an actual date on the calendar. It's just 2025 was enough for me. But so let's get started here, Tucker, with these ones that, at least in my book, aren't 2025 games, but kind of are.
Fair enough. Yeah. So these count towards your 10, or you just want to mention them?
No. Okay. I just want to mention them briefly. Mina the Hollower, I'm very, very excited about from Yacht Club
Funny
Games.
that there's not a date on that one.
Funny that there's not a date. It feels like...
Actually, not funny. I think it's kind of worrisome, actually, personally.
I think they're just cooking. They just cook forever on this stuff. I mean, I played the game at PAX 2 years ago, and it was great then, so I think it's going to be even better now.
Yeah.
Obviously, can't wait for Mina. I also have down here, and this is a less sure thing, but I have Crazy Taxi. I was reading an IGN article where apparently the rumors are that of all of Sega's many revivals, Crazy Taxi could be the first one that's ready in 2025.
That'd be really exciting.
If that got a date, it would be very high up on my most anticipated list.
Do you know there's a Crazy Taxi 3? I just found this out the other day.
It's not a Crazy Taxi
game.
It's
called Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller. I believe it's an Xbox game.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then the last here, and this is a very broad catch-all, but it has to be mentioned.
Yeah.
I literally have on my notes tab here, whatever the fuck Nintendo has cooking.
Yeah, that's a big asterisk for this year. And at the day that we're recording, on January 6th of 2025, Nintendo has not had any information for the last few weeks to over a month at this point, and obviously we're still waiting on Switch 2 information, some games to be announced alongside of that. We haven't had a direct yet this year. Pokemon Day hasn't happened yet, so there's a lot of news that will be forthcoming, and by the time you're watching this video 2 weeks after, you'll know a lot more than we currently do. So I mean, there are some Nintendo games on both of our lists that they already have announced, but there's still plenty of stuff they haven't announced yet that will, in retrospect, heavily reframe the way that we're looking towards games we're looking forward to this year.
I think there's a chance that once the Switch 2 presentation happens, 80% of my list. While we're here, though, actually, I do want to read out a comment from Rika Lee, who left a message saying that his most anticipated game was 3D Mario on the 40th anniversary, and I think this is totally fair to say because it's pretty obvious. But Rika Lee says, because of all the things that Bowser's Fury teases, like having a completely seamless world and inventory of power-ups, potentially for multiple past Mario games, as well as being an anniversary tie-in that can also flesh out Mario's movement, combat options with more versatility and focus than Capture's had, alongside dynamic events and bosses like Fury Bowser. This is my most anticipated game of the year. By the way, I'm paraphrasing a little bit
Yeah.
because I want to get to the heart of what Reekley said. So if I
Sure.
stumble, it's not Reekley's fault. It's beautiful text. I'm trying to rewrite it in
Beautiful
my brain on the fly.
prose.
They could do a ton with an open world 3D Mario that has all this in it, and even more gimmicks we might not even know of yet.
Yeah.
Could also be great. It could also be a great game to show the Switch 2's capabilities, just like the previous console 3D Mario's did so well. There's a lot riding on this one, honestly. I agree, and I still do think this is the launch game for Switch 2. We're not going to get into that kind of prediction stuff here, but want to shout out that from Reekley.
I'm wearing something I can't roll on my sleeves up, but I've got full goosebumps right now because I just thought about an open world 3D Mario game, and I was just thinking about how, like, what if you just, like, run into, like, a boss battle that's, like, in an arena, you stumble over a cliff and you see a Koopaling that you have to fight, or like, what if there's, like, the Mega Mushroom or the Mini Mushroom, but you're in an open world, so you can, like, sneak down, like, going through the tiny path, and there's, like, a cave down there or an extra world. Dude. Bruh.
It'd be amazing. I don't really get goosebumps, but I'll roll up my sleeve and go, tick, 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 Nintendo, I want that really bad.
Ding, ding,
ding. Tucker, do you have any games that fall into this general category of likely 2025 you want to shout out?
Yeah, there are, well, different variances of likelihood of 2025, but there are two I want to mention.
Sure.
That don't have confirmed dates for this year, but I think are possible for this year. Number one is Judas, the first game from Ghost Story Games, Ken Levine's new studio. It is a spiritual successor to BioShock. Everything he's talked about, I think, makes it seem super ambitious and super forward-thinking for the games industry. The aesthetic, I think, is really compelling. The gameplay looks great. The setting is really, really exciting. That game they've been working on that game for 10 years, and so we don't know if it's coming out this year. Frankly, I was expecting a release window at the Game Awards because Ken and Jeff kind of, they go way back. But I also think it's possible because last time we saw Judas was at a PlayStation State of Play early last year, that there's an early this year State of Play that gets a release date for that game, and that's still for this year. I think it's possible, but also 2K, who own Ghost Story, they also own Rockstar, and GTA 6, they're making sure that they balance other things out. They also have Borderlands 4 coming out this year and Mafia the Old Country coming out this year. They have a way more packed lineup this year than they usually do. And so I don't know where Judas slots in. I don't know if it necessarily matters, but it's a really, like, in flux situation right now.
They also allegedly have another actual BioShock game cooking somewhere.
The Cloud Chamber game, yeah.
Yeah. And to be clear,
also they have Civ this year. Jesus fucking Christ, 2K is going on a roll.
I have not put down any games that we think exist, which is to say
neither
nothing
do I.
highly rumored that I included. It has to be officially announced to be
me too.
Here. But yeah. Other than Judas, what else did you want to shout out?
Hey, what if Pragmata releases this year?
What if?
There's nothing necessarily indicating that, though.
Yeah.
It's time. Either it comes out in like a year or it's canceled. But that is a game I am very compelled by. Modern Capcom is really interesting. It looks like the sort of spectacle action adventure game that I like out of some other teams, and Capcom hasn't really done that sort of thing before. And it would be really interesting to see something like that come from them. They also only have one game announced for this year, which is Monster Hunter Wilds, and so they've got to fill up that rest of the calendar with something. And Pragmata is the only other like AAA game they even have announced. So yeah, we'll see if that hits.
Yeah, we'll see. Tucker, I also have a couple honorable mentions I want to shout out for the core top 10.
Okay. Ones that have confirmed 2025 release dates, but aren't on your top 10.
Don't quite fit.
Sure.
And I want to give reasons here. One of mine here is Doom the Dark Ages, which I imagine is on your list, so we'll save it. But I like Doom 2016 and I've not played Eternal yet. I think Dark Ages looks awesome, but at this point in time, I'm not quite there on it yet. Same with Ghost of Yotei. I think Ghost of Tsushima is a great game, but I never beat it. I kind of lost interest in it. But I think that if they refine that formula, it could really speak to me. I have Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition here because I really like Xenoblade Chronicles X a lot. I didn't beat it on Wii U, but of the Xenoblade games I have touched, it is my favorite. I like the aesthetic the most, so I want to check that out again. But that's really going to be dependent on what else Nintendo is up to that part of the year. And then the last one here, Tucker, is I have Lost Soul Aside.
Oh, interesting. Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
I can't tell based on like trailers if this is the type of game I want it to be or not. I just can't tell. So I'm keeping a watchful eye on this new PlayStation published title from, or just PlayStation funded China Hero Project game.
Yeah.
It looks like it could be a really cool character action game, but it also looks like it's mostly like boss fights. Now,
Yeah.
which seems cool
Yeah, sure.
because it doesn't look like Souls combat,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still not quite what I'm after. So
Sure.
I could really love this game, or it could not quite be my thing.
Yeah.
Those are my honorable mentions.
Sure.
Do you have any you want to
mention? Just quickly, because there's a couple that I think might go under the radar or people might not really remember are happening. Number one is Mixtape, the next game from Beethoven and Dinosaur. They did The Artful Escape a few years ago, which is a game I was kind of mixed on, but Mixtape looks a lot more ambitious. It looks very creative, which Artful Escape definitely was. That was announced last year. It's announced for this year, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And then also Directive 8020, which is the next game in the Dark Pictures anthology. It's not Dark Pictures Directive 8020, but it is a horror space game like Alien, starring Lashana Lynch. And that is just I'm immediately sold on that premise. But also, even though the Dark Pictures anthology has been sort of hit or miss, this is the longest break they've taken, and so I really think they're cooking, they're waiting, they're putting their all into this, and so it just seems like really different for them. And I like Supermassive quite a bit. So I've liked some of their games. I really like Until Dawn, and The Quarry was a lot of fun. So I really hope this is their next, Until Dawn, The Quarry, Directive 8020. Okay, you don't really have to remember about those other Dark Pictures anthology games that kind of like hit or miss. But I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Awesome. Let's have a look here at a couple community submissions. How about? So what I've tried to do is, if people have commented about games we're anticipating, we'll talk about them later on in the video, but I want to give people time to discuss games that we're not necessarily anticipating yet ourselves. Mm-hmm. Tucker, just to clarify, I'm assuming you have Doom on your list, right?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
And do you have Death Stranding 2?
I do not, because I'm...
Then let me read a comment here, and then you can give your thoughts here. This comes from our good friend Scruffy, who says, I'm excited to see more of Death Stranding 2. I think the original is an interesting game, and the idea of a sequel holds a lot of potential. I'm looking forward to seeing what Kojima has to say with his newest.
Totally. I mean, look, I played a little bit of Death Stranding. I'm going to give it another shot sooner than later. But Death Stranding 2 looks wackier, and that excites me. The idea of these gloves that are like hands that like light the cigarette, and the little stop motion doll hanging from his waist, and like
with the guitar,
dude, I don't know. It seems insane. Which is, I don't know. I feel like I thought Death Stranding took itself a little too seriously. Much might have been part of the reason why its tone didn't quite work with me. And this seems like it's striking a little bit campier of a balance that I really like. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Death Stranding just didn't really do it for me. I want to give it another go, but I'm not playing 2 without having beaten 1.
Of course, no, me neither.
So we'll see. But obviously that's going to be a big game this year.
And there's one other final thing I want to talk about. It's a game that's coming out this year that I'm not going to play this year, that I will like when I do play it.
Yeah.
And that is Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which they have been inundating me with clips of on social media. And it just looks goofy. It looks hilarious. I've recently gotten into Yakuza, but this looks like a totally off-the-walls version of a series that's already pretty off-the-walls. But you're playing as Majima, a longtime character in the Yakuza series, who gets amnesia, wakes up on a beach, and thinks he's a pirate. And so he starts operating a pirate ship. And there's like Black Flag pirate ship combat. And you also have a pet baby tiger. And you have like DMC-style combat where you're like throwing people in the air and you're like doing combos on them. It's insane. So I know I will like that game when I do get around to it, but I'm not playing that till I get through more of Kiryu's story and play Infinite Wealth, and it's going to be a journey to get there. But I keep thinking like maybe I'll still buy it when it comes out, just to, like have it and like smile at it sometimes. But but it looks really cool. It looks really goofy and fun. I'm very excited for it.
We have a comment here from our good friend Virtua Eric, who says that his most anticipated game of the year was Mighty Number 9 on 3DS, but not anymore. Because the pre-orders for that game through Amazon have been officially canceled.
After like a decade.
I wonder how many people genuinely thought that was going to get filled. Like a dozen?
2?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say a dozen's probably the maximum amount of people that had it pre-ordered for 3DS.
Probably.
And I would say 90% of those didn't even remember they had it pre-ordered.
Yeah. Eric does say, though, that now, unfortunately, barring, the tragedy Mighty Number 9, his most anticipated now is Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves.
Oh, sure.
This game has a really cool art style. Mm-hmm. That's further afield into the genre of fighting games than Wander, but it does look really cool. I will say, as a quick sidebar to anybody here who's mostly a Switch player or missed it before, speaking of fighting games, Guilty Gear Strive is coming to Switch this month, and you
Oh,
get all the
wow.
paid DLC.
Way late.
Yeah, but you get all the paid DLC, including the DLC that's like dropping like just a couple weeks before the game comes out on Switch on the cartridge in your
Whoa.
core price.
Huh, cool.
That's a really cool game. I really like Guilty Gear Strive, but I'm not buying it again on Switch. I have it on PlayStation. The last one here, Tucker, that we have actually two submissions about here from our friends Adam Hurd and Nishquick is the same game, and that's Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Mm-hmm.
So Nishquick writes Expedition 33 because it's a unique take on turn-based combat with some interesting action elements. Also, the art style is realistic, but it still looks really good and appealing.
Yeah.
And then Adam says it's a massive JRPG inspired by games like Final Fantasy and Persona, but through a more Western AAA lens with an absolutely ridiculous cast, including Ben Starr, Charlie Cox, and Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
It's a really ambitious-looking push from a brand new studio to make the genre appeal to places outside the normal anime environments.
Yeah. It's a great pick.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. I really do want to play that. I believe it's also on Game Pass, which is a really exciting proposition. But I do have to push back on one thing Adam said. It's not a massive JRPG. It's like a 30-hour JRPG, which is great. And it's priced at like $50 or something like. So they're really targeting this for, I think, an interesting, more mass appeal, where it is more cinematic focus, which obviously appeals to a lot of people. Has that cast, is a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller budget or price, and also being on Game Pass. I really think there's a chance that this could quite strongly hit the mainstream if it's good. We don't have anything from this team before. We've only seen a couple bits of this game. Everything does look promising so far. I think they've really keyed up like basically all the dominoes, and now just the quality has to hit, and then I think it could be off to the races.
Yeah. Also, I don't know where we stand on the term right now, but I don't think it's a Japanese team making this game. But
good point.
I don't even want to fucking wander into the oceans of what the term JRPG does or doesn't mean. So I don't know. You guys litigate that like in the crawl or somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere else.
That's beyond.
Don't involve us.
Tucker, that is all the community comments we have that
aren't
games that we're excited for later on. So we're just gonna get into our top list here. Do you have yours ranked? Because I have mine ranked.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you do or not.
I do. Yeah.
But I'm going to be speaking at mine in a ranked order. Why don't you go first?
Let's start with because I actually did have Judas in my top 10, and I'm like, that technically is one that doesn't have a confirmed release date. So I'm gonna move that. But I'm replacing it in my 10 with Big Walk, the next game from House, the creators of Untitled Goose Game. We've only seen one trailer of this game, which was at the Game Awards a couple years ago. But it looks really goofy, and it looks like a really interesting take on a social game where you're these doofy little guys. They're just little cartoon guys. There's this like big open world, and you're like you can pull out binoculars, and you're doing little puzzles together, and you're like sliding around, and they have these funny animations where like their heads are spinning and stuff. Like I don't really know what the game is, but Untitled Goose Game is so unique and it's a fantastic game, exactly what it's going for. I have full confidence that House will be able to deliver something. I'm very glad they're taking it somewhere totally, totally different, and it just looks really unique. Like I'm watching this gameplay, I'm like, I don't know if there is a game like this. So I have full confidence it can be an excellent game.
Yeah, I love House as well, so I'll definitely check that out with you when it comes out.
That's gonna be a good stream game. We should do a Big Walk stream. Get like Scruffy and Bo or something on there, and just all kind of dick around.
My number 10 is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound.
Yeah.
It's a fan of the first game on NES. I bought the trilogy of 3D action games over the Christmas period, and I started playing Black, and I liked it a lot, and then I think I stopped playing it because I don't remember why, but I stopped playing it. However,
wasn't it too hard for you?
No, I just put the difficulty down.
Oh, okay.
And I was enjoying it quite a bit, but I have a bad attention span.
True.
The point is, I'm interested, but not a massive fan of Ninja Gaiden. But Ragebound seems like a really great place to sort of build on my limited knowledge and fandom for the series with what is going to be certainly a fresh take, a standalone take, and one that kind of builds upon the IP with the pedigree of two teams that are perfect to take it on, which are the Game Kitchen, which make Blasphemous, and Dotemu or Dotemu. I never know.
I think it's Dotemu.
Who published great games.
Yeah, they do.
The team in beat 'em ups and Streets of Rage 4 and all kinds of stuff. So That's gonna be a banger.
Mm-hmm. For me, my next one is Baby Steps. This is the next game from Bennett Foddy, of course, of Getting Over It fame, but also from Gabe Kuzillo, who made Ape Out. And it's nothing like any of the. Well, actually, it's a lot more like Getting Over It. But you're this kind of pudgy guy who goes on an adventure, and you can slip really easily and fall down a hill. But it also seems like it has a really great sense of like writing humor in it, which is going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. How the game is structured, I don't know, but it's pulling from Bennett Foddy's history of games like QWOP and GURP and other things that sound like
maybe
that. But they both work together on Ape Out, which I think is an excellent game.
I love Ape Out.
And this seems to be pulling in some interesting inspirations. And it's a game that seems really, really unique. Like this, I think this and Death Stranding are the actual walking simulators. And that with a sense of humor, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So can't wait for that.
I actually didn't know Bennett Foddy worked on Ape Out. I love that game.
Yeah.
My number 9 here is a game called Skate Story. It's a Devolver game developed by somebody named Sam Eng. It's this really cool, dark skating game with a very, very unique aesthetic, a unique glass aesthetic, and a very moody soundtrack, and this real sense of like force and momentum behind it. I'm not a good skateboarder in real life. I can barely just carve around and stop when I want to stop.
Whoa, holy shit!
But I love a hyper stylized skate game. I really loved Ollie Ollie World from Roll 7. May they rest in peace.
This is crazy.
Yeah, and this game looks like it's going to be a real banger. I talked to Sam a couple years ago about
You are a demon made of glass and pain is the tagline for this game. Whoa!
Yeah, I talked to Sam a couple years ago, and then the game got quite a significant multi-year delay. But assuming it comes out in 2025 now, that is its scheduled date. I think it's going to be a real heater.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'd seen the title, but I certainly hadn't seen the gameplay before. But now it's locked in there. See, this is a steel trap. It might look like a head, but it's actually a steel trap in reality. Next up for me is Doom: The Dark Ages.
Sure.
That, I think, is one of my top favorite trailers of all time. It just builds in such a great way. It looks really different aesthetically and tonally from other Doom games, but it's also obviously in that same vein, and I have full trust in it. I think that they've really put a lot of great effort into rebooting this series for the last decade, and this looks like it's going to be one of the best first-person shooter campaigns, which are relatively rare in modern times. It's just like, yeah, this is going to add to that legacy real quick, and looks like it has a ton of energy and new ideas, and man, I actually rewatch that trailer probably like every 2 or 3 weeks. It's really, really awesome.
Bo did write in and say Doom Dark Ages because 2016 and Eternal are some of the greatest FPS games ever made, and Dark Ages looks even better. So
yeah,
I need to play Eternal soon. My next game here, number 8, is Compulsion Game South of Midnight.
Oh, nice, yeah.
This game looks really cool. It looks like a fun blending of not only styles visually but gameplay ideas as well.
Yeah,
some action in there. It seems to be a more linear game. I'm a fan of.
Yeah,
and I genuinely just think that Compulsion is touching on an aesthetic that we've not really seen that much before. So I've been really captivated by it. In a very, very, very cursory capacity, I've had the pleasure of working on an art book in a vinyl with Lost Occult and Cook and Becker for it. So I've been not involved in the game, obviously, but I've been involved in sort of the community and the space around the game, and it's just gotten me even more excited to actually get hands-on and see what Compulsion's working on.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool, and and to me, much like you see the success and creativity of something like Pentiment, this is why I do appreciate what Xbox has been doing with the certain developers have been acquiring, given the time and the development power that they need to really deliver on something. And everything that we've seen from the little documentaries about this game that they've shared, the different sets of gameplay from the movement to the traversal to the combat, and the music and everything, the aesthetic, it all looks like they're just like boom. They're just really nailing something really special. So I hope this game doesn't go underlooked. I'm certainly gonna be playing it when it comes out. It fits into my sort of just vibe of something totally unique
Yeah.
and a single player game, which are two things I like. So yeah, I can't wait for that one either. Didn't quite make my top, but yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Sweet. Your turn.
My next game is Split Fiction, the next game from Hazelight Studios that I have found someone to play the game with, which is my brother, who played and loved A Way Out and It Takes Two, which I didn't know until like a week ago. I'm like, oh, do you want to play the next game with me? And he's like, yeah. And so that we shall do. I can't wait for this game. By all measures, Hazelight's work has only gotten better over the years. And of course, they won Game of the Year a couple of years ago, so there's a lot riding on this. But they've really been they went quiet for a few years. They've just been cooking and cooking and cooking, and it's coming out in actually exactly 2 months, March 6th, 2025, from the day we're recording. Can't wait for that. It's the perfect thing where it's like full reveal. It's out soon. It has the pricing structure of you buy one copy, you can play it with a friend. I think this is going to easily be one of the best games of the year because I really do believe that. I like Wait Out quite a bit. I think It Takes Two is one of the best 3D platformers of all time. I think it's one of the best games of all time. I think it's totally unique, and it seems like they're only building on that with more ambition and more variety and more creativity. It looks insane.
It's an exciting year when a game that you have that high praise for the predecessor of only, what, is that number 8 on your list?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might be better than some of the other games that are coming up, but I'm a sicko, so there's some sicko shit coming up.
Number 7 for me is a game called Demon Tides, from a developer named Fabraz, who previously made games called Demon Turf. They're these 3D platformers that got quite popular on Switch, where you're essentially like a Paper Mario-styled character in a 3D world, and you're just doing some expressive platforming. And I think that those games are okay. I think that the 2D and 3D makes it a little bit hard to judge where you're going. It makes it a little bit awkward to control, but there's obviously a lot of deep knowledge about and reverence for the genre of 3D platformer from the lead dev. And Demon Tides is that full 3D platformer, bigger in scope.
Yeah.
That I really think that could be knocked out of the park by Fabraz. Also, like John Cartwright's doing voice acting for it. Sure. I think it's going to be a super cool game. It was maybe Day of the Devs is where they did the proper reveal for it.
Yeah,
I love this sort of Dreamcast, GameCube feeling of the aesthetic and the gameplay. So I really can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard of it, but it does look good. So cool. Yeah, glad that's on your list. Next up for me is Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which I will not be playing until the second part is out, because this is coming from Don't Nod, the people that originated Life is Strange a number of years ago. And while I like Don't Nod a lot, I don't really personally love their Life is Strange games, though I think they got better over the ones they made. But Lost Records is them doing their own take on that, but also I think evolving it in really interesting ways. For me, what really makes Lost Records interesting is not only is a new story and new characters. We're not just retreading a Life is Strange stuff again, but it seems to be more of an ensemble thing, which I really enjoy out of my games and stories just in general. But also, it's through the lens of a main character who's really into taking videos of her friends, like home videos, and so she has a camcorder. It takes place in the 80s, I believe, and she has a camcorder, and you film the game as you're playing it, and it records the clips that you are recording, and you can change the f-stop and stuff, and then at the end of the chapter you get to edit together the footage that you've made, and it kind of recaps the story a little bit, and it does seem like they're really putting something very unique into this story game that will give it its own flavor and mechanically could be pretty interesting. So aesthetically I think it looks cool, and it's coming up pretty soon, so I'm very much looking forward to Lost Records Bloom and Rage.
Like my number 6 game here, I anticipate is much higher on your list, but that's Pokemon Legends ZA.
Sure, yeah. I'm surprised it even made your list.
Yeah, I mean, really, and I talked about this a little bit in the end of year video we did, the Pokemon trading card game Pocket is really doing a lot to launder the reputation of Pokemon in my mind. And so I'm quite intrigued by the amount of time they've taken to iterate, and I also think that the Lumio setting intrinsically forces this game to be something different than Legends Arceus was.
Definitely.
Even though it will no doubt build on that framework. So I'm really excited to see how this shapes up. And I do think that although it's largely vibes and like the work of complementary products elsewhere, I think this could really be the game that brings up the main line of Pokemon in my estimation again after sort of not really digging a number of the games. Mm-hmm. So more than anything on this list, save for one title, I think it's the game I second most want to just learn more about.
Yeah, well, because we also haven't seen anything from it, and even though it is my list technically ranked, I'm just going to talk about it here. This is my most anticipated game of the year, because the last few Pokemon games have worked for me, and that makes it even more exciting that this one might actually be like better. Like they might have actually like made it like a solid game. I think the other ones are really fun. There's a lot of ideas, but they're certainly mixed bags, and there are things holding them back that I will not deny. Yeah. But Legends of ZA is the longest Pokemon game in development. They took an entire year off. Last year was the first time since 1997 that there wasn't a home console Pokemon game. Or a new Pokemon game released on consoles.
Crazy.
So it's breaking a trend. And also I do think that the Legends team, and I think that you might agree to this to a certain amount, the team that made Legends Arceus versus that core Game Freak team that made Scarlet and Violet, the Legends team seems to have a lot more ideas that are really pushing the series forward and trying new things. And for everything we know about Legends ZA, it is shaping up to be the most unique Pokemon game, which is really, really compelling to me. And I think might cap off the Switch generation of Pokemon games that has been such a interesting ride, to say the very least, on a fascinating high note. Taking a little bit of extra time, taking in feedback from multiple games coming out in 1 year, and really just, I think, hopefully delivering on something exciting and fresh. So, yeah, and we'll learn about the game by the end of next month, which is when Pokemon Day is. I assume that's the next time we're going to see it. So, and also they'll have gone quiet for 1 entire year. That's crazy.
It is really crazy. And I'm also not typically somebody who cares about something like this, but I am quite pleased that it didn't leak when that build was stolen.
Yep.
Because if the leaker was to be believed and based on what they were saying and how they were acting, I think they are to be believed, they had the game.
Yeah.
Or at least a pretty complete version of it that they could have blown out.
Yeah.
And what I think I'm looking forward to is seeing what it looks like when Pokemon Company gives a team at Game Freak the time to really think carefully about every element of the game. Because even when you go back to the Scarlet and Violet reveal trailer, I think you can see from the jump that we're going to have technical issues and things,
absolutely.
Right? So
yeah.
I think being able to put the right foot forward is going to be important for sort of, I don't want to call myself a lapsed fan because I still do check out all this stuff, but maybe more skeptical fans.
Yeah. Excellent.
But Tucker, we're now kind of into our top 5, although you shared your number 1, but you did that to yourself. For my turn for number 5 here, I want to talk about Mafia: The Old Country.
Ooh, hell yeah, brother man.
I am not really a deep Mafia fan by any extent. I've only played Mafia Definitive Edition.
Yeah.
But the reason I want to check that out is because it was billed as, and it wasn't a lie, just a really tightly put together, linear, cinematic, third-person shooter.
Yeah.
And it's something like, I believe both Mafia 2 and 3, and I actually think Mafia 1 as well, are more open games, which is cool, but not really my thing.
Sure.
What we know about the Old Country is that it is in the tradition of Mafia Definitive Edition. It is another linear game. And I think that turn of the century setting is really cool, and I'm just always up for a cinematic third-person shooter like this. That just really speaks to me. So I think this game is going to be really, really great. And it is the highest that a 2K game places on my ranking.
Yeah, well, I mean, neither of us have GTA 6 on our lists.
No.
Because neither of us are GTA guys. I was listening to a couple people talk about 2025 games, and it was part of what inspired me to want us to talk about this, because I like the idea of thinking forward about this, and also kind of using this as a time capsule. But there is one element of what they said that really made me be like, maybe I actually am really excited for GTA 6. Not only just because it's going to be a massive game and I assume it'll be quality, but this is the first game that Rockstar will have put out since they made Red Dead 2, which is a massive step up in everything for them, production value, storytelling especially. And to see that storytelling team that made Red Dead 2, which is one of the defining video game stars of the entire medium, taking on Grand Theft Auto and having a decade's worth of development time on it, it will be very good. There's no shot that it's anything less than an exceptional and forward-thinking game. But I don't have any attachment to GTA. I dicked around some GTA 5 online, and I had fun doing it. I remember making a character that had like a top hat and like suspenders and like a handlebar mustache. That was great. He drove around a little green and blue like VW Bug. But I'm not a GTA guy, but I think this one might be the one to do it for me.
I was actually going to ask you about this if we got to the end of the list and it wasn't on there for you, because it's not on there for me because I just don't really like Rockstar that much.
Sure.
The only Rockstar game I really enjoy is LA Noire, which basically makes my opinion on Rockstar completely irrelevant.
Okay.
Is this for you? Like, is this a day one really exciting pickup for you, GTA 6? Do you think?
Yeah, because it's something I got to be in the moment of. I mean.
Yeah.
If I think I would be disappointed in myself if I look back 3 years later and I'm like, I didn't really get around to GTA 6. Even though might be the biggest entertainment launch, video game launch, cultural launch, probably going to win Game of the Year. Like, I got to be in on ground one as this game comes out because I've never really had a chance to. GTA 5 came out when we were in middle school. And so, although I had friends who played it then, I was not into that. I didn't have a PC at that time. So it's not a game that I ever had a chance to like be in the zeitgeist of, and this one is going to be the zeitgeist. This is going to dominate the entire year, and so especially because like if games start moving and it means that the fall is a little bit lighter release wise, like what else am I going to do with my time? Like work, spend time outside. Nah, I'll just play GTA 6. Next up for me is Sword of the Sea, and that rhymed, and I didn't mean it to. Sword of the Sea is the next game coming from Giant Squid, the team that brought us Abzu in 2016 and Pathless in 2020. There's no year on that one. And Sword of the Sea looks like they're combining basically everything that this team has ever worked on into one like magnum opus project. Part of Giant Squid's founding was one of the lead designers and visual designers on Journey, which is a game that you and I both love. Abzu is a game you and I both love. Pathless is a game I finally got around to and also really loved. We just talked about it in one of my favorite games that I played last year video. And Sword of the Sea is taking in all the visual inspirations from all these games that fit in this very beautiful aesthetic, location-based games that I really, really have enjoyed from anyone involved in this project. And also it seems like it has like it's like a Tony Hawk game. And you're riding around on sand dunes and there's flying dolphins in the sky and the desert's turning into an ocean. We've only gotten one trailer of this, and that trailer was so evocative and so beautiful, like Abzu and Journey are. I think they're some of the most beautiful games ever made, and there's no reason to believe this will be any different. And it looks like it might even be more ambitious and more creative and more evocative. So I'm really, really, really excited for that one.
Next one for me is a big one. It's Monster Hunter Wilds.
Oh, yeah.
I'll let Scruffy start us off here, because Scruffy wrote in about 2 games. In addition to Death Stranding, Scruffy wrote, Monster Hunter Wilds is a big one for me, based purely on preview-related stuff. Capcom are absolutely knocking it out of the park, and at the moment, and I can't wait to see how Wilds capitalizes on the momentum of its own golden age. Yeah, so Monster Hunter for me has sort of been like a snowball rolling down a hill. I didn't have much interest in it, and over time I've accumulated a great interest in the series, beginning with World and then also moving into Rise, which I played not a ton of, but certainly played more of than World. And I say this basically every time I talk about Monster Hunter, but again, roommate I lived with in college, one of my best friends, Martin, massive Monster Hunter fan, literally played every game in the series. I'd come back to the dorm and he's playing fucking Monster Hunter 2 or whatever, right? Yeah. So I've, through osmosis, gained a lot of knowledge about Monster Hunter and a lot of interest from that second-hand Monster Hunter inhalation, and also my own time playing the previous games. And I think they just keep getting more accessible and more intriguing to somebody who's not a fan of sort of the pre-World style of game, which I played very, very little of. So yeah, I'm super excited to get really stuck into Monster Hunter Wilds and have that be sort of the game I'm keeping up with and playing consistently throughout the year on probably on PS5.
Yeah, it's also a game that I'm looking forward to trying as my first actual Monster Hunter experience. I think it looks like they're really, really took their time with this. Both Rise and Worlds were great games, sold very well, very popular. But Wilds is the first next-gen game. It's going to be taking advantage of that hardware. It'll be really easy to connect with people, which I'm looking forward to, and learning from other people. And also, it looks like they're doing some things gameplay wise with evolving dynamic weather and things, and being able to switch your weapons on the fly, which I didn't know about. Like, you can just have multiple weapon sets that you can just swap between. That looks like it's going to be like a really freeing Monster Hunter experience where you can just fucking go hog wild. So not that builds on anything that I've experienced before, but I know those are like, that sounds cool. Like, that sounds exciting and fun to play and cool to experience. So, and I also, much like a lot of these other teams I'm talking about, when Capcom puts out a new game, I sit my white ass down and I listen. And even though I'm not a Monster Hunter guy, I expect this to be nothing less than one of the best games of the year.
Yeah.
Which is funny. We've got a lot of those this year, where it's like 100%. There's no way this isn't one of the best games defining the entire industry. Which is why this year is just going to be so exciting to see how it shakes out. But the last two are the stuff that for me is a little more sicko shit. Like, we're talking about Monster Hunter, we're talking about Rockstar. Yeah. I have two more.
Wait, I have three more.
Because I already talked about my number one. But
yeah, and I guess you pushed Judas out. Did you?
Yeah, but I replaced it with Big Walk. I can find something else to talk about. Don't worry about it.
Or I can go again, and then we're fine. Then we're square.
But then am I talking about less games than you? I don't know. Who cares?
I'll just go again.
Okay, fine.
Okay, it has to be on my list. I don't care what anybody says. My number 3 most anticipated game of the year is Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. It can't be anything other than that. I am absolutely stoked to play this game again. I'm very excited to have it in HD. Previously, I've only ever played it on 3DS. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really looking forward to diving back in, replaying this game, playing it with Jean. And then moreover, I'm just excited for it, beyond it being a great game, being this stepping stone in this larger revitalization of Donkey Kong. Obviously, we have the theme park opening later this year in the States, which I'm going to be going to, which I can't wait to see. And obviously, that theme park and Returns are themed the same. And I don't just mean that in broad IP, like the Mario park. Literally, Returns HD and the park are tandem in their key art and in what they're drawing on. So I'm really excited for finally, after a massive drought, Donkey Kong to be back at the forefront. And I anticipate this is going to be followed by a new game in the coming years. But even in the short term, Donkey Kong Country Returns is a great game. I'm really excited by what Forever Entertainment is doing to it, which is simply making it accessible in HD on Switch. So I'm counting down the days till I can play it again. So
10 days as a recording.
10 days.
January 16th.
10 days as a recording. Have it pre-ordered. Can't wait.
Yeah. Next up for me is Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Because I am a really big Professor Layton fan. I think there are very few games like it in the industry, not only from the way it approaches its storytelling mixed with puzzles, obviously, but a huge variety of puzzles that are always keeping things fresh. But for me, it's also just how unique the music is and the aesthetic is, and how much I love Layton and Luke and Emmy as characters, and the world building and things that they tell. The original trilogy and Miracle Mask being the 4 out of 7 games that I've played, I've adored all of them. And this is the first one we're seeing from them in a long time. And it's the first one that I'm like cognizant of as it's coming out. And so I'm just excited to see what a Professor Layton reboot in the modern era is. This is also, it's one of the first ones not published by Nintendo. So we'll see. I mean, obviously doesn't mean too much, but it does communicate a little bit of a difference. But regardless, the trailers that they've shown, I think, look really good. And it's a new Professor Layton game, which I've been begging for like 7 years now. So I have to be there, and I have to support my boy Herschel Layton, put him near the top of my list.
I'll certainly be playing that as well when it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, and you would just sort of anticipate, given the gap in time, that this will be a good one to jump into.
It has to be a starting point. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm also quite excited. I obviously don't have the familiarity with the series, so it's not on my list, but that's definitely a day one game for me as well.
Excellent. That's good to know. It's good to hear. And I bet by the end of the year when we look back, that's not going to be true. But we'll see what happens. You love saying things in these kind of videos that don't end up happening. But hey, so do I. We're fallible human beings, so it's not like I'm making fun of you too much.
Number 2 for me is Avowed. I absolutely cannot wait for Avowed. I'm a really big fan of the Outer Worlds. Now you might be wondering, Abram, where's the Outer Worlds 2 on the list? Honestly, this spot is like kind of just like a spot for Obsidian.
It can be. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I don't care.
Although I'm certainly more interested in Avowed, just
Sure.
simply because I want to see them tackle this new world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's
Instead
closer.
of this
And I've
outer
been
world.
thinking, exactly. It's closer. I've been thinking about it for longer. I like the key art more. So for all these reasons, and reasons that are a lot more significant, like the different types of fantasy combat we have in here and everything, I'm very excited to give this a try. Because as I've said a couple times in the past, fantasy isn't usually my aesthetic.
Yeah.
But I've been playing a couple more fantasy games. Obviously, as a massive fan of Dragon's Dogma last year, and I really think that this more heightened, more cartoony, more magic-led fantasy world that we see in Avowed, that Obsidian's putting together, will really captivate me. And another one we don't have to wait too long for.
Yeah.
So really, really am excited about that, and it feels like every time there's previews, the opinion gets a little bit higher of the game each time.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it seems like the extra time that Obsidian took with this one really was worth it, and we'll be playing it in just about a month. So
yeah, and I think what's so cool about Avowed for me is it's a game I'm going to be playing. It's not one that I have I'm looking forward to it. I'm super excited for it. But this is a new IP major game, and we've talked about a number of those today with Lost Records, and I mentioned Pragmata. There was something Directive 8020. Technically, there's South of Midnight. There's a lot of new things coming out this year. Of course, a lot of sequels as well. But Avowed to me is like this could be another like defining pillar for Obsidian if it really does hit, and that's exciting because they're a team with such a pedigree that I'd love to see another thing come from them. Not that they haven't been great at doing new stuff. Their last 4 games have been new IP.
yeah.
So hats off to Obsidian. I'll be playing your game when it comes out. But I guess my last one is
there something that feels missing when you're thinking? Did you see another one you want to shout out as well, or do you just have one more?
I mean, I can just talk about other games if you want me to. But the last one that's on the list right now is
that's fair enough. I just didn't want you to feel like you weren't speaking about a big one.
Oh, yeah, I did find it. I found that it's actually on my list, and my eyes just kept skipping over it.
That'll do it then. There we go.
Yeah, that's why there's 2. Okay, so now do I get to go twice in a row? What the?
Just go again. Fuck it. Go twice right now.
I didn't go twice in a row. No, you just talked about Avowed.
Yeah. So how many games do you have left right now? I have
2.
1. You have 2.
Yeah. Holy shit.
So if you go, back up and then I go, and then you go, and it's fine.
Holy shit. The game I forgot about, my eyes just kept skipping over it, is Elden Ring Night Rain. It's gonna be one of the biggest games of the year, so I don't know why I kept forgetting about it, but FromSoft has an untouchable pedigree, and Elden Ring was one of my favorite games a couple years ago. Obviously, a genre-defining game, and this is exciting for them because it is something different. They've been very good at trying new things and making new IP and new worlds and new mechanics in Sekiro and Bloodborne and Elden Ring and all these things. But Elden Ring Night Rain is a continuation of Elden Ring, but it's not Elden Ring 2 that takes 6 years to come out. It isn't an expansion, of which we had apparently a great one last year, but I didn't play. But it has been 3 years for me since I've played Elden Ring. And it's frankly, since I've played a Souls game. I haven't played any FromSoft games since I played Elden Ring a couple years ago. And Elden Ring Night Rain being a co-op game, being a really interesting, smart realization of assets, having a different structure to it. I don't know if it will speak to me personally in the way that Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and Dark Souls have, so personally, but it is just so exciting to see them continue to operate at this clip and be able to take risks, because even though this is a new Elden Ring game, a game, that game sold like 25 million copies, something ridiculous, so like this is a built-in, probably going to be success. I think it is still kind of a risk to eschew the design structure that they've been polishing in the Soul structure for over a decade, and do a co-op game with it seems like kind of a roguelike structure, and those two things those don't jump to mind as like things that mostly sell me on games, but coming from FromSoft, I'm like, I want to see them try.
You play a lot of Fortnite. Obviously, it's not like those are directly analogous games, but you and Joe and somebody else hop into Night Rain and dick around and try to beat a run. Like, I think that you could really find yourself liking that rhythm.
Yeah, we'll see.
Do I even have to say it, really, Tucker?
I can just end the video. You want me to?
No. My most anticipated game of the year, of course, is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and I want to start this segment by admonishing Phil, who wrote that his most anticipated game was Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, but simply wrote Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, period, might be my one Nintendo game of the year. First of all, that doesn't make sense, Phil. Second of all, even if we're taking that as your statement, you can't just say Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, period, and move on. I just can't let you do that. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a game that I've been anticipating for fucking ever. And it's finally real, and it seems like we're really not only we're obviously in the year of its release, but it seems like we might even be on the precipice of its release.
Yeah.
I am just absolutely stoked to see which past Prime games dominate the pot of influence that is cooking up with the end result of that big gumbo being Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Interestingly, from the trailer, I feel like Retro went to great pains in that proper trailer for the game to illustrate that this is indeed the Metroid Prime we remember in terms of the way Samus moves, in terms of the scanning, in terms of the way you lock onto enemies, the way her arm cannon is firing. So it looks like it's going to be quite traditional, but indeed, even if you're thinking about traditional Metroid Prime, there's three very different strains of it in that original trilogy to pull from.
Sure.
Moreover, we've got people coming in that have worked on Halo. We've got people who've come in that are working on COD, and so there's a lot of new talent as well. It looks like from everything we know that there is people who have been with Retro for a while, and then a lot of people who are coming to them fresh. So I anticipate this to be really the game hardcore fans want, but also a game that people beyond that can enjoy as well. Because obviously, that's
what the title means.
I adored Metroid Prime Remastered, but you and many other people who came to it for the first time didn't get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is the opportunity Retro has to say, well, okay, we're going to speak to those people too, and we're going to figure out what in the recipe of Metroid Prime needs adjustment to get more on board. So
and they've had the time to think about it.
Absolutely, and obviously the game has been troubled, but this version of the game has not been. And I think that's a distinction that in the conversation on Metroid Prime 4 is lost a little bit. Whatever Bandai Namco, I guess we don't know it was Bandai Namco, but that was a big rumor. Whatever they were doing that got canceled is irrelevant to the conversation around what Retro is doing here.
Sure, yeah.
When they came in fresh, they started their dev cycle. And
when was that announced, by the way? That
2019.
Okay.
2019.
So yeah. So obviously it still has been in development for a long time there, but not. Yeah. It hasn't been in development there since like 2016, which is what people imagine. They're like, Jesus Christ, this game's been worked on for 10 years. Like, okay, that's technically true, but not necessarily true with this iteration of the game.
Yeah. At the point of pre-production, Nintendo comes out and says, look, hat in hand, the last version was fucked up. We're going to try again with Retro. And then they zip their lips.
How fucked up could it really have been, though? Like,
well, that's what I'd love to know someday. Yeah. We'll probably never know. No. But Retro, buckled in, heads down, worked on the game, came back last summer, said, here it is.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to release. And I just absolutely can't wait. Yeah. I could play nothing other than, I could play only old games in Metroid Prime 4, and I'd call it one of the best years of gaming ever. So I really can't wait.
Yeah.
But that's been obvious to anybody that's watching this video for years at this point.
No, of course. And the other thing that to me is just Retro being back. Yeah. We've spent, for you and me, almost half our lives being like, where's the next game?
Absolutely.
And also, for even longer than that, they had quote unquote just been doing Donkey Kong for 5 or 6 years or whatever. And so it's been a long time since they've worked in this realm, and I hope that they're able to come back and be one of the defining teams for Nintendo, because they haven't been. Obviously, they've never missed with all the games they've made have been well received, but they've been quiet for so long that they were kind of just like almost like a curio. It's like, oh yeah, Nintendo still owns them, right? Nintendo, like, they're probably making a game, but who the hell knows what it is? But yeah, it's going to be a really exciting generation-defining moment.
Coming back with doubtlessly the most expensive game Nintendo's ever produced. Yeah. So it'll be a wonder to see how it turns out.
Wonderful.
Absolutely cannot wait. Tucker, your last game here.
My last game is not my number one. We already talked about Legends Arceus, or ZA
Yeah.
rather, being my most anticipated. But second behind that is Wanderstop, the first game from Ivy Roads, which is written and directed by Davey Redden, the creator of the Stanley Parable, which I think is one of the best games ever made, and such a defining moment in my history as a fan of the industry and games as an art form that I give him entire carte blanche. I see this game, its aesthetic, its gameplay structure and stuff. I'm like, this is stuff I'll probably like. But just knowing that this guy and that mind that made the Stanley Parable and the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe is working on this is like, it's he's one of my like top 3 like artists in general ever.
Sure.
And so it's like, next big thing from him. I'm gonna play that. Don't even really know what the game's like. Don't know what it's about. I got delayed out of last year. I would have already played it already, but it's coming soon. I will sit down. I will play it. I will do nothing else. I'm sure I'll be obsessed with it. Because it's so different. It's hard. Like a lot of these things are like from studios that we know, from big series we recognize. This I can't say why I'll love it, but I know that I will love it. Just given that someone so creative and impactful to me is working on it. So yeah, that's
well, and also they're a writer. So,
yes. Oh, and also I do want to say one other thing. Another synergy. I love Annapurna's games, so that's another great synergy. But also composed by C418, the guy who did the fucking Minecraft soundtrack, which I think is like, I mean that dude. Sometimes I'll hear like 3 notes from Minecraft soundtrack, and I'll just like melt into my chair, and I'm like, this guy's doing the music for the fucking Stanley Parable guys game. Holy shit!
Yeah, that's one of the soundtracks of all time. I mean, I think what's really cool for this game for you is that it's a lot of people who are collaborating, and the roles that they fill are roles that can be filled on kind of any gameplay or systems game, right? Mm-hmm. So it'd be cool to see and feel their influence on a structurally very different product.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll be really excited to hear what you have to say about that one.
Yeah.
But Tucker, we did it. We talked about a lot of games here. Obviously,
we did it.
A lot.
We're at 56 minutes and 30 seconds, so just for shits and giggles, let's rapid fire other things that are coming out this year and make sure we don't miss anything.
Okay, yeah. We'll go for a flat hour. We have that amount of time to
exactly. Go, stop, say something.
I don't fucking know. I gotta pull up the list.
Fable. Fable is a big game. Playground Games has been working on it for a long goddamn time. I hope it's a defining game for Xbox. It's the first time that I've ever really thought about Fable. I will be going back. I hope it's big. I hope it's great. That'd be really exciting to have another major open world RPG from a different team that's never made something like that before. I'm also
Metal Gear Delta.
Oh sure,
Metal Gear Delta.
Yeah,
a big one,
of course. Shadow Labyrinth, I think, looks kind of goofy. It's a
Which one?
Shadow Labyrinth, the fucking Pac-Man game.
Oh yes.
I'm just interested to see what it's like.
Bo has been talking a main game about Dynasty Warriors as of late. Been talking a lot about Origins. I think that game's gonna be really sick. I'm not gonna play it right away, but I'll play it at some point.
Yeah. For me, Chronos: The New Dawn, the next game from Bloober Team, really evocative imagery, totally unique, like sort of Lovecraftian horror stuff. I think it looks awesome. Can't wait to learn more about that.
We also have Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is gonna be really interesting seeing that game unfold against Ghost of Yotai.
Mm-hmm. I'm also interested in Cairn, which is the next game from the game makers who made Fury. Cairn is a mountain climbing game, and it looks like it's structurally very unique. It's pulling from what I liked about Jusant, but a little bit more methodical, a little bit more reflective. So I'm really looking forward to that really striking hand-drawn art style. Very, very cool.
Did the Gex trilogy come out yet?
Yeah. No, it will come out this year, yeah.
Okay. Did Croc remaster come out yet?
No. You gonna play that? No, you're not.
No. Capcom has another fighting collection coming out, which will be really cool, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look what else.
I'm looking forward to FBC Firebreak, which is the co-op shooter from Remedy. Remedy has not missed in the last decade, as far as I'm concerned. This is a different game from them, much in the vein of why I'm excited for Night Rain. This seems like it's based in a world that I love, and aesthetic I love, and it's something a little bit structurally different. So I'm excited to see them diversify.
PlayStation is publishing something. Midnight Murder Club Society.
I mentioned that. Yeah, that's fine. I'm looking forward to it, but we don't need to get in. We're not that sick.
Marvel 1943: Rise of Hydra.
We don't even know what the game is, but I'm compelled by it. Oh, and then I guess the final thing, actually, I really want to give this a shout out as we close it out. The Altars looks really, really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even really know what the structure of that game is, but the concept of this guy making clones of himself and ordering them different things, and the narrative sort of based around this, and this really striking sci-fi imagery. I think it looks really, really fresh. So The Altars is actually maybe I should even have that in my top list, but I'm really looking forward to that game.
The Chameleon Twist 3, I think, is this year.
Nope. Bye.